Today, we're diving into Rocky Mountain National Park, but this isn't your average scenic tour. Now, think of this more like a high-stakes management simulation. We're going to explore the absolutely immense challenge of protecting this incredible landscape by putting you in charge of making the tough calls.
And this quote right here gets to the heart of the entire thing. It's the tightrope that park managers have to walk every single day. On one side, you have this incredibly fragile, beautiful nature, the tundra, the forests, the wildlife. And on the other, you have millions of people who come to see it, to love it, and, well, to inevitably leave their mark on it.
So that's what we're doing. We're putting you in the manager's seat. Yep, for the next few minutes, you are the boss. You'll get the data, you'll have the tools, and you'll have the responsibility to make the hard calls that could shape this park for generations. All right, let's get started.
Okay, first things first. Every good manager needs a dashboard, right? A quick snapshot of the current situation. This is what your park looks like the very moment you take over. This is our baseline. Every decision we make from here on out starts right here.
Now, what's so fascinating here is the contrast. Visitor satisfaction is high. That's great, you might think. But look closer. That comes with some serious trade-offs. Climate stress is on the rise, and that wildfire risk, it's rated high. That's not just a number. That's a huge, blinking red light on our dashboard.
Let's zoom in on this for a second. Moderate health. What does that even mean? Well, it means the park isn't on life support, but the whole system is definitely under strain. You know, you can think of it like a patient with a constant low-grade fever. It's not critical yet, but it's a clear warning that something is wrong.
And that brings us to maybe the most urgent problem on the board. A high wildfire risk isn't some abstract, far-off threat. It's a direct, immediate danger to the forests, the animals, and, of course, the people visiting the park. This single metric puts a massive amount of pressure on our strategy from day one.
So, you're probably asking, where is all this stress coming from? Well, it pretty much boils down to two massive, relentless forces: a rapidly changing climate and the ever-growing number of people who want to experience this beautiful place. First up, climate. This chart lays out a few possible futures. We're kind of on track for about a 3-degree Fahrenheit increase by the end of the century. But that extreme scenario, a 10-degree jump, that's a whole different ballgame. It's not just about warmer summer days. We're talking less snow, more drought, and the absolute perfect recipe for those catastrophic wildfires we just mentioned.
And the second big pressure? Well, it's us. 4.5 million people every year. Just let that number sink in. That is an incredible number of footsteps on trails, cars on the roads, just general human presence in a wild place. Just managing the sheer volume of people is a monumental task in itself.
But here's the thing. It's not just how many people visit. It's when they all decide to show up. When you have a peaked season, with everyone cramming into the park in July and August, you get insane congestion in the most popular spots, like Bear Lake. If we could somehow spread that visitor load out more evenly across the year, we could seriously reduce the strain on the park's most fragile spots.
All right, enough doom and gloom. We've seen the problems. The question is, what can we as the park manager actually do about any of this? Well, you have a toolkit full of strategies and actions that you can deploy. Let's open it up and see what we've got.
The big idea that guides everything now is something called the RAD framework. See, in a world where climate change is already happening, we can't just pretend we can freeze the park in time perfectly preserved. RAD gives us a new playbook, a new way to think. Do we resist the change, accept that it's happening, or try to direct it somewhere new?
So let's break that down. Resist is exactly what it sounds like. You're trying to keep the aspen groves just the way they are, fighting tooth and nail. Accept is more hands-off. You let a wildfire burn through an area and just see what grows back on its own. And then there's direct, which is maybe the most interesting. That's where you step in after that fire and actively plant, say, more drought-resistant trees to guide the forest toward a more resilient future.
And this is where that big picture thinking gets real, you know? It translates into actual on-the-ground actions. We can build fences, these exclosures, to protect willows from hungry elk. We can set our own controlled, prescribed burns to clear out dead fuel. And we can manage people with things like time entry systems. Every single one of these is a choice, and every choice has a consequence.
Okay, now for the really fun part. We are going to run a couple of simulations. We're going to plug in different variables, make different management choices, and see what kind of park we actually end up with. Let's start with a really tough one, a true worst-case scenario. Imagine the climate takes a serious turn for the worse. And at the exact same time, our funding gets slashed. We have very few resources to fight back. What does our park look like then?
So here are the cards we're dealt. A massive 10-degree temperature spike, half the normal snowfall, and a shoestring budget of just $1 million. I mean, this is a serious stress test for our ecosystem. Let's run the numbers and see what happens.
And wow, the results are not good. They're grim. The willows, which are the backbone of the river ecosystems, are in critical condition. And without willows for food and shelter, what happens? The beaver population crashes. And those beautiful, iconic aspen groves that everyone comes to see? Gone. 0%. Totally outcompeted by tougher pine trees. This isn't just one problem, it's a cascading system failure.
Okay, that was tough to watch. But what if we change our approach? What if we get a bit more proactive? Let's run another scenario where we're facing a more moderate climate, but this time we invest heavily in actively managing and restoring the park. This time, we're going to use our toolkit.
Here's the new setup, a more moderate 3-degree temperature increase. And this time, we have a healthy $20 million restoration budget. And crucially, we're going to use that money to conduct prescribed burns. That's a direct strategy, right? We're actively trying to shape the forest's future.
And would you look at that? It is a completely different story. The willows bounce back fast, which helps the whole riverside ecosystem. The bighorn sheep start recovering, and those prescribed burns? By clearing out the undergrowth, they let sunlight hit the forest floor, giving the aspens a real fighting chance. We maintain 20% aspen in the forest. This is proof positive that our choices, our management decisions, they matter a lot.
So after all of that, what's the big lesson here? What did we learn from our time in the manager's chair?
I think the most crucial thing to realize is this. There is no magic button. There's no single right answer. Managing a place like Rocky Mountain National Park is a perpetual balancing act. It is a constant series of difficult trade-offs between what visitors want, what the ecosystem needs, the budget you have, and a future you just can't predict.
And that leaves us with a much bigger, almost philosophical question, doesn't it? If we are actively directing ecosystems with prescribed burns and timed entries, what does the word natural even mean anymore? As our world continues to change, maybe the biggest challenge isn't just how to preserve our parks, but what we decide we want them to become.